Good evening, and thank you all for your hospitality. I had a great time with you guys in Melbourne just a couple of weeks ago. I have nearly recovered from my jet lag, and then you made me get up at 5 o'clock this morning to do this, but that's fine. I am extremely passionate about radio and extremely passionate about community radio and the unique power that radio has to create communities, to share information, news and music with those communities, and I hope you'll see something of that passion as we talk about both old and new media this evening. This is a talk about social media and visualization, but most importantly it is talking about how we as radio folk can generate compelling content by using social to discover new content, by using social platforms to reach new audiences and to aid discovery of our best content on new platforms. So this is not necessarily a talk about mastering social media or branding your station, but it is about helping you, I hope, to make better programs and helping you to get those programs to new audiences. I believe that social media is not about competing with what radio does, but complementing it and taking the best of our output beyond perhaps our traditional audiences. Danny's introduction has said a little bit about who I am and what we do. We have about 25 staff in the UK and work in around about 100 countries. It's our privilege to work with some incredible broadcasters around the world to reach around 1.5 billion households a month through the brands that we work with. Often their favourite radio stations for news, music and information. I say this not to big us up because I'm not American, but to big up the power and the scope of radio's reach and the passion of our audiences. Radio is great at great content and building strong communities. Those are what matter in radio. And radio reaches more people around the world than social media. In most countries it will reach 80 to 90% of the population. But I don't say this to show off about the size of our largest broadcast partners, because some of our most important stations reach very small but important audiences. Maybe a small Zulu language station in South Africa reaching a population who have no other news, largely illiterate and cut off from the grid of the internet, can reach these populations other than via the power of radio. So radio has much that it can be passionate about and much that it can be proud of. And I always start with that because I love radio and I don't want people to think I'm some new media maverick who just wants us all to stop making radio and send pictures and tweets and social media messages. I love radio. It is intimate and it's immediate. And today we will talk about new media, we will talk about new techniques and new technology, but it's not about that. It's about using those tools and platforms to make radio great again, to help us to make great radio that will be compelling to listen to and that our audience will delight in sharing. The first thing I say when I work with stations all over the world, and perhaps the number one piece of advice I will give you this evening, is to look at the way that the attitudes, the habits and the habitat of our audience have changed and to consider our response to that. And so top tip number one of the day is this. When you woke up this morning, when your alarm clock went off and you cancelled that alarm clock, what was the first thing that you then touched in the morning? Danny, relax, this is not the question I'm asking you yet. What was the first thing that you touched? Now, I had to wake up very early this morning at 5 o'clock, but on every other morning, I have to confess that the first thing that I touch in the morning, even before the person that I may wake up in bed with, is my mobile phone. It's the first thing we reach for in the morning, and all too often it's the last thing that we reach for at night. So if you get nothing else from this evening's session, let it be this. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, and every morning when you wake up, if you do have the privilege of waking up with a significant other, just make sure you pay attention to them before you pay attention to your mobile phone. And I promise that will make a bigger difference to your life than anything else that I say on the call this evening. Danny, this is your moment. Are you there?
Oh, I am here. Do you read me?
I do. So, Danny, would you like to just help us out by explaining to the rest of our audience who these three groups of people are?
I'm assuming that the two guys with the emo haircuts, are they Jonas Brothers?
No, you're correct. A youth audience, but that is Smoosh. They have 22 million subscribers on YouTube. But I'll give you the easiest one. The guy in the middle, please.
Oh, I've got no idea. Is he an actor or something?
No, that is PewDiePie. So he is the most famous of the three there. He has 49 million subscribers on YouTube. And I sort of cheated. The guy on the right is one of the two Fine brothers, another major YouTube channel from the US, 14.5 million followers. Danny, you're now excused for the rest, well, for about the next 25 minutes.
Okay, no, thank you.
So, case in point is just that. We need to understand that there has been a major shift in the way that media is consumed and produced. Here are the top 10 US primetime TV shows. This was from earlier this year, I think around about February, so it may well have changed by now. But broadly speaking, 16 or 17 million viewers will get you top spot of US primetime, with one of many productions of NCIS at the top there. And again, I should have probably asked Danny, but it's a question that we ask folk is, where do you think YouTube sits amongst that? And it's a trick question, because it doesn't just beat number one, it actually beats all 10 of those added together. So in other words, YouTube and YouTube stars are, if you talk to my teenage audiences, the most influential and powerful media creators that we have today. The second thing that we need to think about when we think about social media and we think about visualization and we think about the way media is being consumed is while you might get 50 million views to some of the top individual video clips of a primetime evening, that content is not just being consumed on mobile phones, but it's largely being created by users and created on mobile devices. So all of those tens and hundreds of millions of views that YouTube clips get is not because they're made on $1-million Arri cameras with tens of millions of dollars of budgets like those 10 shows that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. But it's all about the content, and it's all about the community, and it's all about the engagement that those clips get with the audience. So our audience's habits are changing. The habitats that they inhabit are becoming mobile, are becoming user-generated. And so we must be led by the changing habits of our audience. This is not a change that radio is leading, but in many cases we're running to catch up, and we're reacting to the demands of our audience and the location of our audience. And I want to make sure that radio becomes as normal a reflex and as natural a resource to a new generation and to changing platforms as it was to those of us who grew up just habituated to tuning into the radio in the car or looking each evening to the TV news for what happened during the day. We must understand that old media is no longer the first or the primary source of most of our news, music, and information. But it is still a trusted brand and a trusted curator, and it is still very good at some of the things that new media are not so good at.